absolutely no plan for what came next. The moment he died, total chaos erupted. His generals, the ones we call the successors, immediately started fighting amongst themselves, just tearing his empire apart to create their own little kingdoms. What was once this huge, unified territory just fractured into warring dynasties that would fight for generations. So what is his real legacy then? Well, today we are diving into the story of one of the most brilliant, ruthless, and honestly, game-changing figures in all of history, Alexander the Great. We're talking about a military genius who, in a little over a decade, carved out one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. But his story? It's a total paradox. It's a tale of how the exact same ambition that fueled his unbelievable rise also led directly to his tragic fall. Okay, so picture this. You're 20 years old. You're standing on the bank of the river Granicus, and right in front of you is the Persian Empire, the undisputed superpower of the age. Behind you is an army that's betting its life on you. Now, most people would wait, right? They'd hesitate. Alexander, he charged. And that single moment of just breathtaking audacity is where the legend really begins. But it's also a perfect preview of the very trait that would eventually lead to his own destruction. Now, what's so fascinating is that Alexander didn't build this incredible army from the ground up. Nope, he inherited it. His father, King Philip II, was the real revolutionary here. He was the one who turned the Kingdom of Macedonia from kind of a backwater into an absolute military juggernaut, designed for one thing and one thing only: conquest. And this was Philip's masterstroke, the sarissa. I mean, just look at this thing. It's an 18-foot-long pike. So when you get thousands of soldiers in a phalanx formation and they all level these pikes, they become a walking, unstoppable wall of iron. It was a pretty simple innovation, really, but it completely rewrote the rules of ancient warfare. So let's just quickly trace how this all happened. For centuries, other Greeks kind of looked down on Macedonians, saw them as basically barbarians. Then Philip comes along, creates this super army, and in 338 BC, he just crushes the combined forces of Athens and Thebes, unites Greece, draws up the big plans to invade Persia, and then gets assassinated right before he can launch the invasion. The stage was perfectly set for his 20-year-old son to step right in. And oh, did he step in! Alexander took his father's perfectly engineered war machine and added the one thing it was missing: his own boundless, almost reckless audacity. He didn't just command from the rear. No, he became the living, breathing spearhead of his own army. Which brings us right back to that first major battle at the Granicus. The chaos was just unbelievable. Alexander himself led the charge, plunging straight into the thickest part of the fighting. He was almost killed, took a massive blow to the head, but was saved at the very last second by his friend Clytus the Black. Now remember that name. It becomes tragically important later on. This moment right here tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. After Granicus, he gets to the city of Gordium and is shown this ancient, impossibly complicated knot. There's a prophecy that says whoever can untie it will rule all of Asia. So what does Alexander do? He doesn't even try to solve the puzzle. He just draws his sword and cuts right through it. The message was crystal clear. Alexander doesn't play by your rules. He shatters them and makes his own. And he took that exact same mindset to the Battle of Issus, where he faced the Persian king Darius III himself. He was outnumbered almost 2-1. I mean, for any normal commander, that's a suicide mission. But Alexander's strategy wasn't just about tactics, it was psychological. He waited for that perfect moment, then led a charge straight at Darius. He didn't just want to break the Persian line, he wanted to look his rival in the eye and break his will to fight. And you know what? It worked. Darius fled, leaving his entire empire and even his family behind. This victory just blew the doors open to Egypt, where Alexander was welcomed as a liberator and literally crowned pharaoh. But this is also the turning point. Out in the desert at the Oracle of Siwa, he was hailed as the son of a god, and it really seems like he started to believe it himself. This belief in his own destiny all came to a head in his final, decisive battle against Darius at Gaugamela. This is where his tactical brilliance was just on full display. He intentionally moved his flank way out wide, which looked like a really weird move, but it was a trap. It baited the Persians into thinning out their center line, and as soon as that gap opened up, bam! He led a devastating charge right through it, aiming straight for Darius one more time. The result was just an absolutely stunning and complete victory. We're talking a few hundred Macedonian losses versus thousands upon thousands of Persians. The Persian army just collapsed, and Darius fled for the very last time. The Persian Empire, the superpower that had dominated the world for centuries, was now his. But this is where our story takes its dark turn. Alexander had conquered the world, and now he had to face his most dangerous enemy, himself. The absolute power he now had, well, it began to corrupt him absolutely. His own men watched in disbelief as the king they knew, the one who fought and bled right alongside them, just started to disappear. He started adopting Persian customs, wearing their decadent clothing, and he even demanded that his proud Macedonian veterans perform proskynesis, that's prostrating themselves on the ground before him, as if he were a living god. To them, this wasn't just an insult, it was blasphemy. Paranoia started to creep in and take over. He executed Philotas, one of his best commanders, after a confession that was literally extracted through torture. Then, to be safe, he had assassins kill Philotas' father, the legendary general Parmenion. And then came the ultimate tragedy. In a drunken argument, he murdered Clytus the Black, the very man who had saved his life at the Granicus. The conqueror was now killing his own saviors. But his ambition still wasn't satisfied. He pushed his army even further east, across the Hindu Kush and deep into India, trying to find the very edge of the world. He was still undefeated in battle, but he was about to face a force he simply could not overcome. So what was it? I mean, after all the empires and all the armies he had just rolled over, what could possibly stand in his way? The answer? It wasn't a foreign king or some massive new army. His final, unbreakable opponent was the will of his own exhausted soldiers. They had just reached their limit. I mean, think about it. 8 years away from home, thousands of miles marched, countless battles fought. And then they hear rumors of even bigger Indian armies waiting for them across the next river. And they just said, no more. For the first time in his life, Alexander's ambition had slammed into a wall it couldn't break. The simple human desire to go home. He was forced to turn back. His retreat through the desert was absolutely brutal. It cost more lives than many of his battles. He eventually got back to Babylon, but he was a changed man. And then, at just 32 years old, after coming down with a sudden fever, the conqueror of the world was dead. And his death revealed the fatal flaw in his entire grand design. He died undefeated, sure, but he had created an empire so massive and so unstable that it could only be held together by his own personal force of will. He left no heir and absolutely no plan for what came next. The moment he died, total chaos erupted. His generals, the ones we call the successors, immediately started fighting amongst themselves, just tearing his empire apart to create their own little kingdoms. What was once this huge, unified territory just fractured into warring dynasties that would fight for generations. So what is his real legacy then? Well, it wasn't the political empire. That crumbled into dust pretty quickly. It was cultural. His conquest shattered the old world order and kicked off what we now call the Hellenistic Age, a remarkable fusion of Greek and Eastern ideas, art, and language that would fundamentally reshape civilization for centuries. Which of course brings us right back to that central question. Alexander proved he could defeat any army and topple any empire, but the final, tragic irony of his life is that the one opponent he could never truly defeat was his own ambition. He conquered the entire world, but in the end, he couldn't conquer himself.